The next question is to flip an image. Okay. So what the question is, if the array is given to us, means 2D array is given n cross n array, and we have to flip the image horizontally and then invert it. Okay. Two things we are doing: horizontal inversion and the horizontal flip and the inversion. Okay. What does a flipping mean? Suppose that 110 is the first row, it will become 011. Okay, means the reverse of it. We'll reverse each row and then we will invert it. Invert means 0 will be replaced with 1 and 1 will be replaced with 0. For example, in this row, 011 will become 100. First we'll reverse each row and we'll make zeros as 1 and 1 as 0. Okay. So for example, here you can see 3 rows: first row, second row and the third row. Here what we are doing, first we are reversing this one. 110 will be reversed as 011, right? So first 011 will be there, and then 101 will be reversed as the same 101, and 000 also same 000. After we get this 2D array here, then we'll be inverting. Okay, inverting means 1 will be turned to 0 and 0 will be turned to 1. 0 became 1 here, 1 became 0, 1 became 0. Here we have 101, here we will have 010. Here 000, here we will have 111. Okay. So two things: first reverse the array and then the inversion. Okay. So here I have written two loops. So this I have used for each loop. Okay. For each means for each row in the image is having 2D array. So if I write the code like this, each row will be taken, means each this one, like in the first case x will be this, okay, then x will be this, and then x will be this. So whenever I have x as this, I have to reverse this, right? So I'm using means to reverse this one should be going here, 0 should be coming here, and 1 will be staying here only. Okay, means the first element will be exchanged with last element, second element with second last element, and till middle we have to do, right? So image dot length by 2, and we are using temp to reverse the array. Okay, after we complete this point, all the rows are reversed. Now we have to invert it. To invert, again I am taking the row here. Each row I will be traversing from 0 to the end location, and wherever I get as 1, I make it as 0, and wherever I get as 0, I'll make it as 1. Okay. So finally I'll have the reverse array as well as the inverted array. Okay, then that will be stored in image and that will be returned. Okay. So let's run this program and see. So here I'm getting the correct answer. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. Our next question is to find out the cells with odd values in a matrix. Okay. So let's see what the question is. In this question we have been given with an m cross n matrix. Okay, and all are initialized as zeros. So this is the m cross n matrix with m is equal to 2, the number of rows, and n is equal to 3, the number of columns, and this matrix is initialized to all zeros. Okay, and we have been given with another 2D array indices. Okay, where each indices of I is equal to ri comma ci. What does this mean is, suppose that indices is this one. Okay, 2D array, it has two 1D arrays. Okay, means this is the first row which is itself an array, and this is the second row. So this is indices of I. The indices is a 2D array. Indices of 0 means the 0th element. This is the 0th element of indices of I, and this is the first element of indices. Okay, so there we have two arrays as the elements. Okay, so each element is, in indices of I we have these two rows, and each row is ri and ci. What is ri, what is ci, we'll be looking now. Okay, so see here, this is the row number and this is the column number. Okay, what is our task? Our task is to access each of these elements. First this element, then this one, then this one, and then this one. And what we have to do is, this is the row number, this is the column number. Initially we will access the row number. Row number 0 in this matrix. Which is the row number 0 in this matrix? This one, right? Increment all the row by 1. Means whatever values are there in this location, and this location, increment them by 1. So each of these elements will become 1, 1, 1. Right? After doing that, access the next element. 1. This is the column number 1. Which is the column number 1 in this matrix? This is the column number 1. Right? This column number 0, column number 1, column number 2. In column number 1, what are all the elements are there? Increment by 1. That means here I have 1, right? Because I have incremented by row. So 1 1 1 is here, and I'll be incrementing the first column now. So this will be 1 plus 1 2, and this will be 0 plus 1 1. So what is the final array I get after performing the iteration on this list? In the first row of indices, after performing the iteration, I get the array as 1 2 1, and here is 2 1. Okay, when we incremented the row 1 1 1, then we incremented the column, which is 1 plus 1 2, here it was 0, it became 1. So this is the after the first iteration. How many iteration we have to do? How many rows are there? That many. Means in the indices, this is the first row we accessed and incremented. Now let's move on to the second row. In second row we have the row number 1 and column number 1. In row number 1 of the current matrix, increment the values by 1. So this will become 2 3 2. Then row number 1. So this is the row number 1, right? So here it will become 1 2 1. Then increment the column number 1 also. Column number 1 is this one, so it will become 3, and here it is 2, so it will become 3. Okay, because of the first iteration it was 2 here. Okay, so this is the final element. So to implement this in code, what we'll be doing is, firstly I'll be creating a variable x. What will x store is the indices value. Okay, first x will be 0, then x will be 1, and then x will be 1, then again x will be 1 here. Okay, and we'll create a matrix here, which is m cross n matrix, this matrix, and initialize it with zeros. So since if we don't initialize in matrix, it will be by default zeros. Okay, so in this loop what we are doing is, this is the first for loop, this is the second for loop. Okay, so let's discuss about this one. Here what we are doing, we are accessing each row. Okay, that means indices.length means it will return how many rows are there in indices. This is the first row, this is the second row. In the first iteration we will be accessing this row. In the next iteration we are accessing this row. Okay, so when we access the first row here, means row number 0, here we are accessing each of these elements 0 and 1. So for that we are using a for loop which is running from 0 to 1. Okay, means j is equal to 0, j is less than 2. When it's 0, when j is 0, that means it's the row number. When j is 1, it's the column number, right? So we'll take in x the indices ij. That means it will have either row number in x or column number in x. Okay, that we'll check. If it's row number, we'll increment the row. Means it's the first one is the row number, means this j of 1, right? The I is 1, I is 0, so this is the 0th row. And if j is 0, means it's the first location, means the first element, right? If j is 0 means it's the row number, so we have to increment the row. Okay, to increment the row I am using a for loop from 0 to n, which will increment the matrix of xk. Xk means x is initially 0, means whichever element I have here, that row I have to increment, right? Matrix of 0 comma k. K will determine the row number, means column number. Okay, so 0 0 will be incremented to 0 0 plus 1, so this will become 1. Then k will increment, k will point here, x comma k, 0 comma 1, then 0 comma 2, each will be incremented by 1. Then this thing will be over, the inner for loop. Then again I value will be incremented, but before that j value will be incremented to 1. When j is 1 in the next iteration, when j is 1 in this loop, when j value is 1, what will happen is, we'll be accessing this element, this is 1, right? So when j is 1, what will happen, this loop will run, right? Because j is not 0, so we need not increment the rows, we have to increment the column. So we have to increment the first column. How can we access this element and this element? Column number is 1, that is stored in x. You have got this indices of ij, this one. Okay, so column number is 1 and k should increment, means the row number should be 0, then it should become 1. So we are incrementing, we are writing as matrix of k. So matrix of k means it will have initially 0, then it will become 1. K is incrementing, right? And here we have x. X means the column number. So by this line of code, we are incrementing the column numbers values. Okay, so it will become 1 1. After this gets over, I will become 2, and we are accessing this one, and we are incrementing the same thing, the first row first column by 1 and 1. Okay,